Well, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all of you who are joining us, Columbia student community. It's a pleasure for me to address you and welcome you to this global forum to address student concerns and issues and to be in touch with you as we talk about exciting new initiatives for Columbia students to consider for this very disrupted summer of 2020. Surely it's one of the most defining moments of your lives, and for that matter of all of our lives, a summer that will long be remembered. So we want to reach out to you in a very special way. My name is Tom Trebot. I'm the director of the Columbia Global Center in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, acting as your host this morning of our Global Forum. I'm speaking really, though, on behalf of my 8 fellow directors in centers that Columbia has that stretch from Beijing through Istanbul and Paris to Santiago and points in between. So we, on behalf of all of us, welcome. Let me say a word or two about our 2 speakers this morning. A word or two doesn't suffice, but it's what we have time for. We have 2 very distinguished leaders of the university with us. Professor Safwan Masri is Executive Vice President of the University for Global Centers and for Global Development. He is also, more to the point, Director of the Columbia Global Center in Amman, Jordan, one of the directors themselves. He founded the predecessor of the Global Center in Amman more than 10 years ago. And the Amman Center has served and continues to serve as a model of how a global center can serve the university, its students, its faculty, and the world. So welcome, Safwan. We also have Dean Shannon Marquez, who directs the Columbia Center for Undergraduate Global Engagement at Columbia. Many of you, I'm sure, will know her and her office. Shannon, simply put, has been a force at Columbia in imagining new ways for more Columbia students to experience the more parts of the world in more meaningful ways. And now, quickly pivoting and transitioning, she's at the very forefront of Columbia's efforts to adapt student engagement to this new world, an uncertain world for all of us, of pandemics and economic distress and social protest. Both in terms of how we're organized this morning, both Safwan and Shannon will be invited to share their initial thoughts with you. And they, and all of us, all the directors of the Global Centers, we really want this to be as true a dialogue as our remoteness, our remote locations and Zoom technology will possibly allow. So as you hear Safwan and Shannon speaking and putting out their ideas, please make liberal use of the Q&A function on your screens for your feedback and your suggestions. And if you don't mind, a quick note about where you are in the world would be of interest to us as well. None of those questions will be ignored, even though we may not have time in the Q&A to address each of them individually. But your involvement is hugely important for the success of the forum and the ideas that will be put forth in it. So now I would like to call upon each of our speakers in turn to provide us with their opening thoughts and challenge us with their ideas and help to address your feedback. We'll start with Professor Safwan Masri. Safwan, welcome. The screen is yours.
Thank you, Tom, and thanks to the Rio Global Center for really doing a lot of the work that enabled this forum today. To all the students, I just wanted to say that we have been thinking about you, and even though the global centers are not directly involved in your academic experiences, I know that the senior administration of the entire university, including, of course, the college, has been thinking about your experience, thinking about your summer, and thinking about your experiences next year and beyond. I do want to say, just by way of context, that certainly in my lifetime, what we're going through at this moment in the world has been unprecedented. And we have a lot of uncertainties ahead of us. And what we all need to be thinking about are the silver linings, perhaps, and the ways that we can improve, and the ways that we can evolve, and the ways that we can take advantage of what we have at our fingertips to enhance our experiences. I think Columbia and overall, and certainly the students, have benefited from a couple of very fortunate things. One of them is the fact that we have the global centers around the world. As Tom mentioned, we have 9 of them. We are thinking of establishing some more, perhaps pop-up centers where we have large student populations around the world. And we're certainly thinking of locations within the United States where we can connect with our students and with our audiences around the world. 10, 12 years ago, when we started on the mission of the global centers, it was really driven by a vision for the university to be more globally engaged, to learn more about the world and to collaborate both students and faculty around research and education. Today, we feel it is a necessity that we are out there in the world, especially as nationalist isolationism is bound to continue to rise, and as borders close down as they have over the past 3 months. There's much that we need to engage in the world with, and much that we have to learn. And of course, we have students who are spread all over the world. So that's the first, I think, very positive thing. The second thing, and I say this very genuinely, is that Shannon Marquez, who will be the next speaker, joined Columbia University about a year ago. She did not join a moment too soon. Shannon has been under the leadership of Dean Valentini, been really working tirelessly, and much of that also with the Global Centers, thinking about how do we create opportunities for our students around the world. So I'm not going to take too long because we're eager to share a few things with you, but then we really are more eager to hear from you and to try to answer some of your questions. So a quick word about the Global Centers. We have these centers, and I think the slides are up, Laura?
Yes.
Laura? Yeah, okay. So we have the first center started about 10 years ago, and today we have them in 9 places around the world, as you see here. A couple of months ago, we decided to, of course, in light of the COVID crisis, to pivot towards providing more connections between Columbia and the rest of the world, and to bring perspectives from Columbia to inform what is happening in the world, and vice versa. And so as an example, next slide, Laura, we have curated a few events over the past few weeks, and these are just examples of them, looking at Africa and how it's confronting COVID-19, featuring Wafa Sadr, university professor and one of the world's leading virologists. Looking at vulnerable communities, specifically refugee settings. We had just yesterday caring for health and women's health issues during COVID-19, gender politics and work. And these are just a sample of the many, many things that we have been curating. What we have come to is that we want to create student-centric educational webinars. We'll hear more about that from Shannon next. So we'll come back to this theme a little bit later on. But the thing that I'm most excited about, and that we wanted to sort of, unveil as we did earlier this week through electronic communications, is the virtual internships. So as our lives have become disrupted, as our plans fell by the wayside for the summer, we've thought of students who are looking to do something that is productive, that is meaningful, and through which you can contribute to the betterment of the state of the world. So I'm very proud of the fact that through the networks of the Global Centers, we have secured 154 virtual internship opportunities. We expect more to come down the road over the next days and weeks. Most of these internships are unpaid, some are paid, but all of them I think are very interesting. And if you have not applied and are interested, we encourage you to apply. You still have time to do so, and that we hope that you take advantage of all of this. We're also I just want to focus that these internship opportunities are open to both undergraduate and graduate students, even though we are targeting primarily the undergraduate population. In addition to the virtual internships, We have other initiatives underway that we would like to explore with you today during this forum. So for example, the seminars, which I said Shannon will talk about in the context of the Global Collaboratory, we would like to have these fora on a regular basis with you as a way to connect with you and to address concerns and to address any kinds of ideas that you might have for how we can serve you during the summer term. We're looking at adapting and using our physical spaces to serve student needs around the world. And this is really important because as lockdown measures relax in some parts of the world, we are able to convene certain events that are centered on students at those locations. And as I mentioned earlier, we're looking at the viability of having presence in the form of pop-up centers in places where we do not have a physical global center. We're very interested in also hearing from you about the notion of creating regional communities around the world, including in the United States, creating student groups in various regions about the world that can be connected with one another, engaged and involved in some of the programming that is taking place, and forming relationships and cultivating them between matriculated students and alumni in the various regions. We're working very, very closely with Undergraduate Global Engagement, and we are together coming up with ideas that we hope can serve you well. So with those brief remarks, I just wanted to tell you that we are really eager to work with you and to provide you with opportunities. Let's now hear from Dean Shannon Marquez, and then we will open it up for questions and for opportunities to give feedback on some of the ideas that we're putting in front of you. But as I said, also, we really want to hear ideas from you. So Shannon, the screen is yours.
Thank you so much. And thank you for inviting me to this very interesting and enlightening global forum. I'd like to really use my time today to talk about one of the most exciting new collaborations between undergraduate global engagement and the global centers. And so within the last week, we have launched a very exciting opportunity. As was mentioned by Professor Safwan, we've really had to pivot, as we all have in the spring under the conditions of the pandemic. But what's really exciting about this, it actually has allowed us to prioritize a new initiative that was already sort of on our agenda, and we've moved it to the top. The opportunity to have a virtual exchange network, and our virtual exchange is actually called the Global Columbia Collaboratory. And so the implementation of these types of global classrooms is something that is standard practice within the community of international education. And with the COVID-19 pandemic, we have prioritized this, as I mentioned, but we've also thought very carefully and intentionally about this because historically, significant barriers have always existed with regard to student mobility. We're excited to come up with a technology-enabled, sustained, people-to-people education opportunity that will support global learning and bridge these gaps, and especially during this historic time. So this new initiative will be an opportunity for us also to take a deep dive in looking at the competencies related to global awareness. What you're seeing on the screen there is the Columbia College Journey, as you know, really embodies several competencies. And the global awareness competency is one that we focused on in implementing this initiative. But what's also exciting is it allows us to also leverage the other areas such as community engagement, civic and individual responsibility, critical thinking. Global learning then embodies many areas, and in utilizing this new platform and opportunity, we're hoping to also allow students to demonstrate self-awareness, perspective taking, understanding personal and social responsibility, particularly given this historic time, and global systems. It's exciting to see so many individuals on this forum today, people from around the world, and being able to share ideas in a framework that allows innovative thinking is a really exciting phenomenon at this time. So the collaboratory itself is supported by an advisory committee. It's implemented by UGE in partnership with the Global Centers, but also Columbia World Projects. And this is important because we're drawing on the global networks of all of Columbia. In doing so, we also going to be reaching out and engaging with NGO partners, other institutions to support this activity. So the main idea, the main activities include reflecting, ideation, and collaboration. The vision of the collaboratory allows students to think about and learn from pressing global topics, get perspectives from thinkers and peers around the world, sharing in this technology-enabled platform, reflecting on your own place in the world, and collaborating to make a global impact locally, globally, and also having a social impact. So global seminars, which will be supported by the Global Centers, they will launch these, will be used to frame global topics and themes. Then the UGE staff will bring us through a series of reflection activities that provide a focused opportunity for us to think about these global themes and share diverse perspectives. As our learnings and perspectives are shared, the ideation activities will help support the creative process of generating and communicating new ideas, and then leading into a collaboration phase, which will support further development and the actualization of ideas and even projects. And the projects may take on many forms. And so the phases of this entire engagement experiences allows us to leverage technology and multimedia. It's innovative, it's collaborative, it's interactive, taking advantage of the opportunity to say that as we all have returned to our homes and these spaces around the world, there's a lot that we can learn from each other at this moment in time. I want us to move ahead a little bit and think about then within the collaboratory, the program components. For this summer, we are actually launching a special pilot of this initiative that will focus on the pandemic. We will have 3 global seminars followed by reflection and ideation phases that will allow students to share and think creatively about developing collaborations that may evolve into actual projects or other ways they wish to express themselves. As you can see on the left, the projects may include everything from some sort of marketing campaign, a social impact project, technical things like the creation of apps, something in the performance or visual media, an art installation. What's exciting about this is that it also draws on every single discipline. In addition to framing the discussion through these themes, we're also really using the Sustainable Development Goals as a backdrop for discussion. As you work in your teams to think about developing projects, thinking about how these 17 goals help us also chart how we might make an impact in addressing global challenges across many, many different sectors and disciplines. So the reflection phase will allow students to share and contribute to the understanding of your community, but also really share and give a perspective of how things are unfolding in your local community. So whether you're in Istanbul or Indiana, hearing from others about this moment in time with regard to the specific theme that is presented in the global seminar. The global seminar will strengthen your knowledge base, but this is also a constructivist approach. So we will share with each other and gain new perspectives. The reflections also will allow us to share in many forms. Students will be allowed to share audio, video, digital storytelling, upload videos and creative pieces in the platform. Moving on to the ideation and collaboration phases then, as we share our learning and perspectives, these ideas will emerge and opportunities will be identified, and the creative process of coming together and thinking creatively about new projects will be supported in the collaboratory, a space to share inspiration, to iterate, refine, and build. And so the examples of collaborations could be projects that support the development of an app or a collection of essays, really thinking about how in this moment of time dealing with COVID-19, survivors and families, that could be expressed through art or other ways. We have a formal process of applying and a timeline for the summer. This summer's commitment would include attending 3 seminars and doing the reflection activities together in a cohort. By early August, students who are in the collaboratory would have submitted a concept note, ideas around a specific project that they may be interested in collaborating on, and have a whole month of August to support that working together and continued engagement with both UGE and others in the Columbia Global Network, excuse me. And then finally, in August, there will be a symposium where groups can showcase their concepts and key learning experiences and explore opportunities of continued engagement. So a project that evolves this summer may lead to a new opportunity that extends to research throughout the year. We do have some funding available for students who are admitted into the collaboratory. There's a resource fund to support your engagement and participation. Those funds could be used to really support any aspect of your participation. For some, depending on where you are sitting in parts of the world, you may need to buy data or need other resources to help you participate in this technology-enabled modality. We also have project funding for the collaboratory phase. The collaboration phase would include $3,500 per project, as well as cash prizes for selected projects at the end of the summer. Our application deadline is coming up. We had a pretty short window of time given the timeline for the summer, but you still have a chance to get an application in. There's really no right or wrong answers on the application. We want to encourage students from all over the world in all disciplines to apply for this opportunity. There are 2 quick questions to share your interests. We're really trying to gauge your interest in being available and really are eager to participate in the entire series of activities. So we're trying to gauge your commitment. One reflection piece to show how you're contributing to history. And when we talk about contributing to history, we're really just thinking about, in this moment of time, it's been unprecedented. How has it impact and shaped your worldview? What could be your potential contributions to society to share? So there are no right or wrong answers, but we do want you to really take a deep dive and reflect in your application. The application, as I mentioned, is due on the 8th. For more information, you see the link there, and you might have also received an email talking about this opportunity, and I'm happy to answer questions as they come up. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Shannon. Thank you. And as listening to you, I've been browsing the questions from the students. First of all, I'm so happy to see that students are chiming in from California, from Oregon, from Michigan, from Connecticut, from Istanbul, from Beijing, from all over the world. And I'm going to ask Tom for help with answers to the questions regarding the internships, and then maybe we can go back to the collaboratory and say a few more things about it. The deadline for applying, Tom, is again?
The deadline is flexible. There's 155 organizations, more or less. So their deadlines are more or less flexible. We didn't want to close it off with a hard date, Safwan, but we'd like to aim for June 15th. I think it's a stance for the employers are expecting. So June 15th will be a deadline, but it's possible it can extend a little bit beyond that, but maybe not much.
Yeah. So it will be on a rolling basis, and the earlier you apply, the greater the chances that you will be matched with an employer. Another thing to say about this, I mean, one of the questions is regarding, is this full-time or part-time? I think most of them are full-time, but again, it varies from one internship opportunity to another. Tom, the question of language, I think has been addressed. Go ahead.
Well, some of them, many of the Chinese sponsors have requested Chinese and English. Others have required knowledge of the local language. But all are friends of Columbia. There is some English spoken in every one of these organizations. I wouldn't let it stop you if the theme is of great interest. Let the employer make the decision as to whether the local language is an absolute necessity or they can work with Columbia students. So I think, again, case-by-case basis is a learning process for everybody. these are good people who are offering these internships. Let them take a look at your credentials. Let them decide if the lack of a local language is really a fundamental problem or not.
Right. Then there were questions about who's eligible for this. One question that really intrigued me is, are these internship opportunities available for admitted students? And I would say for committed students, absolutely yes. So if you have already indicated that you will be enrolling at Columbia in the fall, the opportunities are available to you. There are questions about Barnard and Teachers College. And again, you can access those internships as well. Like, ultimately, the global centers will try to create the best match between the applications and the offers, if you will, and then the rest comes down to you and to the potential employer. But we would like to make these opportunities available to as many of you as possible. There is a question about recent graduates. I don't think that applies, Tom. I don't know if you want to say anything about that.
Yes, we in talking with the undergraduate, with the college, these are available to May 2020 graduates. Yes, Safwan.
Okay.
They may apply.
Okay, so May 2020 graduates are eligible. Some of you are indicating, I think, if you're perhaps at Teachers College or another of the affiliates, that you're unable to access the list of applications. So we will address this. One of the things that we will do after this forum is we will go through all the questions that have come up and try to address those questions directly to you, or create access where access may not be there. Currently, as we said, we have 154 internship opportunities. We expect that number to go up, and we'll accept as many applications as there are interests in these. And I would encourage everybody to do this, because I think this is a wonderful way to gain some valuable experience, to be engaged, to do something that's productive over the summer, and frankly, to also, reflect in terms of future employment, some experience that you will have gained over the summer. Tom and Laura, you're probably looking through other questions, so I'm sure I missed a few on the internships. We can come back to them, but maybe we can address some questions regarding the collaboratory. So Shannon, one of the questions is, how many students will be accepted into the collaboratory for the summer? And let me just re-emphasize something that Dean Marquez has said, which is the summer will be a pilot phase, so it will be somewhat limited in terms of number, but we hope to launch this for the academic year in August, September, and we hope to get a very large number of students enrolled in this. To me, the greatest thing about the collaboratory is that it really offers students a chance not only to study the pandemic and its consequences, if you will, but also reflect on the world that we live in and on the world that awaits us on the other side of the pandemic. The opportunity to work in teams and to be guided by leading faculty at the university. I think it really is a wonderful, wonderful opportunity to add to the overall learning experience that you are going through. So Shannon?
Yeah, I see a few questions related to the collaboratory. The first one, I want to say that we actually have not set a ceiling on the applications for the summer. We realize it will be a pilot. We anticipate probably 50 students or so will be admitted, but depending on the number of applications we receive, that could be higher. The summer experience will be condensed because of the timeline for summer. As we mentioned, then we expect a larger rollout for the fall. For the summer, currently we are only accepting applications from current Columbia students, and that includes dual BA students. So if you are a student in the dual bachelor's programs, sitting in France, it doesn't matter if you haven't actually come to Columbia yet, you are eligible to participate. For the summer pilot, we are not accepting new students. Students who are new to Columbia or transfer students will be eligible, and we welcome your participation for the fall offering of this. I also saw another question asking about whether or not this is for credit, and we have designed this to be a co-curricular experience, not for credit, with an eye toward helping you realize that there may be an opportunity for you to develop an independent research or directed research project for credit as this continues in the fall. For the summer, then, it's not for academic credit, but we do expect your participation in all of the activities.
Right. Tom, back to a couple of questions. People are asking about the application ID number and where that can be found.
Yes. I think the most common question, Safwan, is where do I find the internships? And try as we may, we haven't apparently gotten it out to all of you, but the link will be sent to all of you who are registered for this Global Forum. We're going to put the link on the Global Center's websites, Columbia Global Centers. We'll have that up very shortly, and we'll try to read.
We put it in the chat box, so everybody should have the links. And if you look at I think the question pertains to the application ID, and if you look at the description of the internship opportunities, every opportunity has an ID number associated with it on that spreadsheet.
Which, if I could say that's an interesting, so that's the very first column in the spreadsheet. So you got to see the spreadsheet, and the ID is easy, but it leads to the following issue: that what happens next? It might be useful to say that there is an officer in each one of our 9 centers around the world who's going to filter those applications to see if they really are appropriate for the employer and vice versa. And then, so that'll be the next step. Then once we finish that process over the next few days or a week or so, a group of profiles of students will be forwarded to the employer. We will facilitate an initial conversation between those students and the employer, and then kind of back out of it ourselves. But we will be there in the middle, sort of to prevent, to make sure that your expectations are met and those of the employer are reasonably met from the very outset.
Yeah. Now, there are questions about how many internships can I apply for? We want to maximize the opportunities for the students. So we urge you to really think very carefully about the opportunities that meet your interests and your background the closest, and apply to one. Tom?
Yes, you may apply to more, since many of these are not paid. I mean, employers are not going to be too demanding on, of the actual hours that you spend. I'd be grateful for your assistance. And it could be that you'll be able to, Safwan, our idea was you can mix and match. You may apply to more than one or in a different part of the world if the time zone problems can be solved, and if your time permits. You can apply to more than one. But to prevent just applying across the board and to make people focus on the opportunities at hand, we do ask that a separate form be filled out for each internship for which you're applying. So you have to have a statement of interest and a separate submit 1, 2, or more forms.
Yeah, but I would urge you to please really try to be disciplined about it and try to apply to one. Just so that there are greater opportunities for everybody. But as Tom said, you may apply to more than one. There were questions about the matching. So that's going to be, each of the centers generated these internship opportunities by contacting people in its network. They have a good understanding of what the potential employers are looking for. They will look at the applications by the students, by center. They will see if the applications are complete and try to make matches on that basis. We will probably be more, more generous than conservative. In other words, we will give some things that are not very clear, the benefit of the doubt, and then leave it to you and the employer to decide if there's a good fit. I just want to remind everybody that this is something that we have, it's a new program, and it's a program that's designed to serve you during the summer. So we're not going to pretend that it is perfect because it's not. And there will be some learning that will that will take place in the process. Other questions, Tom and Laura, that you would like Shannon to address or that you'd like to address?
Let me see here. I did mention some people are still asking about whether there's an application deadline. There's no formal deadline as such. It does vary employer to employer, but we'd like to aim for June 15th. After that point, I think basically we'll have received the critical mass of applications, and the summer will be well advanced. So consider June 15th an informal deadline, but you can still apply after that. I think that was it in terms of as many others here we can work our way through. There were a number of questions on the collaboratory. I don't know if you're seeing them, Shannon. Is the collaboratory also open to the class of 2020 is a question for you, Shannon.
Oh, so at this time, I actually not quite sure. I would say to go ahead and submit an application for the summer pilot. I think this is the first time we've received that question. We obviously would welcome your engagement. So the collaboratory this summer is an interesting opportunity because it is a pilot. You would be part of a real historic endeavor as we try to also then launch this full scale in the fall. So we welcome your applications for the summer.
Is it possible to participate in the collaboratory and internships simultaneously?
Yeah.
Well, certainly, you know, the time commitment for the collaboratory is such that we expect students to also be able to pursue taking courses. They may have summer jobs or other demands with their family. And so certainly being able to participate in the collaboratory should not be a barrier for your other commitments.
Good.
Yep. Go ahead,
The number
Tom.
of hours per week expected on the collaboratory, well, as was stated in my brief presentation, there is going to be only 3 global seminars this summer. And then after the global seminar, which is approximately 1 hour, there will be a series of facilitated asynchronous reflection activities, and these will be opportunities on your own time for you to really take a deep dive and reflect. And then we will probably have a synchronous session to share with those reflections, but also realizing the difference in time zones, there'll be some flexibility around that. And then in addition, as you begin to shape your ideas and thoughts on collaborating on a project, and the collaboration phase is actually optional. Everyone doesn't have to do a project. You may wish to just support and observe your colleagues and peers implementing a project. So the time commitment really varies. I would say it's probably 3 to 5 hours per week, but depending on the leadership role you might take on leading a project, then you would probably spend more time on the collaboratory activities.
But the bottom line is that, especially as we roll this out in the fall, you will be taking a full course load and doing the collaboratory if you choose to participate in it and if you're accepted into it. So certainly you can do it along with the internship. Questions are still coming. Maybe some people had bad network connections and had to drop out and then back in.
Yes.
The internship opportunities are available to everyone, including Barnard students, including School of Professional Studies. I just saw a question about that.
Yes.
So very quickly this morning, we will make sure that all of those constituents have access to them. And I mentioned Teachers College before. There were questions about who will see the applications and the statement of interest and so on. It certainly is the person at each of the global centers that is assigned the task of trying to create the matches, and you should expect that your potential employer will also see it. Okay, so all the information that's on the application will be reviewed by them. Then finally, based on a couple of questions about whether we would have fall internships, I think, you know, we have been so focused on rolling this out for you over the summer. I do hope and I do expect that this will be a great experience for the students and a great experience also for people in our network, whether they're companies, NGOs, or other types of institutions. and we should be looking later in the summer at the possibility of making this an ongoing program, at least during this critical crisis period.
I might just add one more question that we're getting here, Safwan, frequently, and I know it's an important issue for those of you who are international students, not citizens of the United States, but are staying in the United States this summer. There may be special rules if you're applying for a paid internship, and it's useful to clarify that. We're not experts on what is required, but ISSO, the International Students Organization, is aware of the internship process and alert, and I think would be a good source to answer any questions you may have about visa restrictions on your ability to work for an internship if you're an international student based in the United States. And second, that many are asking about deadlines, but I think in all honesty, this is going to be first come, first served. The employer finds a perfect match. We can't stop them from hiring until all applications are in, but so it is kind of on a rolling basis in terms of when the employer receives your application, and it's up to them to decide how quickly to make a selection.
Yep.
Again,
go ahead.
I'm sorry. Finally, Safwan has emphasized this will be recorded. This session is going to be recorded and replayed and also the presentations, Safwan's presentation and Shannon's presentation will also be made, if they permit, will also be made available. Thank you, Safwan.
Again, in terms of eligibility, I want to say that all students, whether all students who are enrolled, even if they have just enrolled, as well as students who have just graduated in May 2020 are eligible, and that includes transfer students. International students who are currently at home, absolutely. I mean, this is for international and US nationals. The opportunities are global opportunities, so we leverage the global centers. As far as opportunities in the United States, we're working with entities on campus to try to generate opportunities within the United States. Are all the internships virtual? Yes, they are. At this point, they are all virtual. But if you happen to be selected and you accept to be an intern in a city anywhere around the world where you are currently living, depending on the lockdown measures, that's between you and your employer as to whether there may be opportunities for you to do things on site. So we'll keep monitoring the questions, but we'd love to get ideas. We'd love to get reactions. Both on the internships and the collaboratory. But as I mentioned earlier, in terms of building regional communities, for example, are students interested in being connected with other students and with alumni, wherever they may be, probably restricted from travel anywhere around the world, in the US or abroad. So we'd love to get any thoughts, any ideas, any suggestions for the kinds of things that we may be able to do to help. You can keep on asking about the collaboratory and the internships, but if you can also introduce any ideas or suggestions or questions about other things, we'll be happy to try to address those.
And I think I'll add that, of course, as we have pivoted in the face of COVID-19, all of our global programs related to mobility have been suspended through the fall. But as we have a vision toward, a brighter future and things returning to normal operations, we've had lots of discussions with the global centers about how we could bring more undergraduate global engagement to the Columbia Global Centers. And it is part of the strategic plan of undergraduate global engagement to develop new short-term programs, other non-credit experiential programs, to partner with our colleagues in both undergraduate research, CCE, undergraduate student life, around everything related to experiential learning, including service learning. And so some exciting new initiatives will be developed and launched next year, including a new global health initiative for undergrads. We have new short-term programs. We're also looking at our pre-college programs, gap year programs. I think the investment that we're making in new resources and infrastructure to advance global learning and to have multifaceted engagement and partnership with the global centers is very exciting. And so although we put that on hold a bit just because of the travel restrictions, we're monitoring this very, very closely. And hope to be able to really launch many of these new initiatives, specifically in sites where we haven't had a lot of opportunity for student engagement. For example, in India, the Mumbai Global Center has a wonderful capacity to support a collaboration around new programming. We also realize that the same is true in other areas around the world. And we also realize there are many disciplines, students in the STEM fields who are looking for opportunities that may not be a full semester, but some sort of short-term program as well. So I'd like us to sort of be on the lookout for that because we've actually been working with the Global Centers over the course of this year. And in fact, it's almost 2 years now that I've been here, and we have some exciting new plans that we've just put in the parking lot for now, but we're ready to really launch them as soon as the travel restrictions are lifted.
Right, right. So there are some other interesting questions about the collaboratory, Shannon. For example, what will it focus on during the summer? Is it all about the impact of COVID-19? So, I mean, the idea, I'll try, I'll make a pass at this, Shannon, and then maybe you'll add to it. But the idea behind the collaboratory is that it gives you an opportunity to study the globe at the moment that we're living in and into the future. So there will be many thematic areas that we will be looking at. Of course, during the pilot, during the summer, we're not going to be able to work on everything, but there are a few things that I know that we will be focusing on. For example, studying the pandemic itself, studying the consequences from a public health perspective and the medical and other consequences associated with that, the impact it will have on how we interact with one another as societies and within societies, the role of technology in all of that, how supply chains are affected in all of this, and how do we deal with them. So there will be specific thematic areas that will be the core of what we will examine through the collaboratory for the summer, and then those will be expanded into the fall. Shannon?
I'll just add that the idea of the global seminars is as a framing seminar, right? So the perspectives that are shared in that framing seminar really stimulate thought and idea generation. And so although we may start with a theme related to supply chains, and maybe the conversation might relate to thinking about the implications of that and how it transpired relative to the pandemic, what we envision is through that reflection and ideation phase, new thoughts and ideas will emerge. And so given that the fact that everyone has a different walk of life, different perspectives, different backgrounds, experiences, studying different disciplines, and have interest in engaging with different types of resources, we envision those broad themes actually developing new ideas in other related areas. So of course, we've committed to starting with themes related to the pandemic, but we also are doing this with an eye towards really addressing global challenges. And so using the Sustainable Development Goals as a backdrop, we can see how anything related to those areas of development and addressing those goals could emerge through this really exciting opportunity this summer.
Some of the feedback I just picked up, really important and interesting. One asks about creating opportunities for students, especially those who study abroad or who may have gone home away from the United States, in terms of evacuations, in terms of lockdown, in terms of impact on their communities. And I think that is a wonderful idea. And I think that, as you heard Dean Marquez talk about the reflections piece of the collaboratory, there will be lots of opportunities for students to share their experiences and to focus on certain areas that they want to study further on the basis of the experience that they have had. But I think also creating more of these fora, we're getting some positive feedback about the importance of having these kinds of platforms to have these kinds of discussions. So we would certainly give some thought to creating platforms and opportunities for students to share their experiences and to connect that way. We're seeing also a couple of positive ideas regarding creating regional communities. I also want to emphasize that in the slides that Dean Marquez has shared with you, the student-centric global seminars that we will be running as part of the collaboratory will bring in global experiences. So it's not, we will bring together expert faculty from Colombia with expert practitioners or otherwise from around the world to share their experiences and their knowledge in those seminars.
Yeah, I think I want to reiterate Arena's question. There was a question about the opportunity to share how evacuating for COVID-19 really impacted us all individually. And I have to say that really embodies the spirit of the reflection activities in a very safe space, allowing us to enlighten each other, but really using different modalities. So for some, that might be an expression in written word. For others, it might be a day in the life of, and that a student submits a video vignette that really summarizes what they're coping with now, and also the entire process of traveling back home. And so the spirit of this is that through reflection, we will also be able to really leverage that cross-cultural element, because understanding how things unfolded in my community will be very different, perhaps, and insightful compared to someone else sitting across the world in another community. And so this is going to allow us to stretch and lean into really sharing, and also, though, using that framing of the seminar and thinking creatively about how there might be some challenges that emerge that we want to create interventions to address those challenges. So we hope that students will be inspired to truly share in the reflection process, to truly really talk about what it's like from their perspective, but also be open to embracing other worldviews and perspectives, realizing that we're going to have a very robust dialogue with individuals participating from all over the world.
Thank you. That's really, really important. Arena also talks about alumni engagement, and that would be amazing. So we will work on this. One of the next initiatives that we will be working on is creating these regional communities and making connections between students in different parts of the world with alumni. There was a question about updating the internship opportunities. Yes, those will be updated on a regular basis. So when an internship is no longer available, it will be taken off the spreadsheet. And as new internship opportunities become available, those will be added onto there.
I just mentioned too that people are reiterating it. An officer at one of our global centers will respond to you and be in touch with you. Thank you for your application. So you will be hearing back from us shortly as soon as we filter the incoming applications. And we have this in mind, as Safwan and Shannon are saying, to be a learning process for us too, as to what is the real needs are. So we'll be checking in with you maybe once in a while without interfering, of course, during your internship, and sort of welcome hearing from you toward the end of your internships, those who participate, and to evaluate this experience and learn for how we can offer enhanced experiences in the future. So we will not be left alone once you've found the proper placement.
Hania Salah from the Amman Center just reminded me of a very, very important point, and that is that among the internship opportunities are internships at the global centers, okay? And at each of the global centers, there is one internship opportunities to help that global center build the regional communities and the networks between among alumni and students. Okay, so for those who are interested in that particular thing, you may want to apply to those positions at the global centers. I know that some of you have also asked about webinars that the global centers have curated over the past couple of months, and there have been tens of them, ranging from everything, from public health to politics to economics to so on. Later on today, we are launching a new book series with Columbia University Press, and the first featured book is by Professor Jeffrey Sachs on the age of globalization. You can go to the Columbia Global Center's website, and you will find links to all the webinars that have taken place. And you can also enroll in our database so that you get all the updates and you get all the invitations to all the webinars that we do as a matter of course. And perhaps somebody, maybe Laura, Tom, or Paul Hirsch, can put on the chat box the internet addresses that allow students to link to previous webinars, to the Global Center's website, as well as to the subscription page, if you will.
Very good.
Yeah, I mean, Tom, maybe you'll want to say a couple of words, and certainly Shannon, go to you next. But, my word of thanks is really first and foremost to all of you students who took time out, and this was short notice, but you all joined us and you all contributed very intelligent and important questions that will help us help you better. We're very, very excited about these opportunities, the collaboratory, the internships, the regional communities, and we hope that there will be a lot more to come. I do want to say that it is very important for us that we not try to guess what you're interested in and what your needs are. So the more you can connect with us, the better, because we benefit from hearing from you. We want to learn from you about what it is that's most important to you. So your engagement is really, really important to us. Okay, so thank you, thank you, thank you. And Shannon, maybe you want to say a couple of words, and then Tom, you'll close it.
I'd just like to say that in this unprecedented time, we are all learning from each other. And so we value your input and your participation. We expect particularly the opportunity to engage in the collaboratory to be really eye-opening, to leverage the chance to really share across cultures and communities, and to really allow this to be a platform for the future. So I want to reiterate that this is not just something we're doing because of restricted mobility. The collaboratory will continue every semester. And so it will be a chance to embrace and take a deep dive into different themes each semester. And there'll be an advantage to be able to stay within the cohort each semester to really have this co-curricular opportunity to learn and share and even advance innovation that might lead to something that does have an impact on the world. So I welcome your applications. Again, they are due on the 8th. If there are any questions, you can feel free to reach out to UGE directly. Thank you.
Thank you, Shannon, and thank you, Safwan, for leading us through this first global forum. Just to close with a quick reminder, there's one specific question about whether graduate students are eligible for the internships, and yes, they are. We've got our homework to do too, some of your questions, and making sure everyone has access to the information. We'll work on that, and we'll learn along with you as we go through the internship process and other new initiatives during the course of the summer. Remember that we have the 9 centers located around the world, those who are located in a center country, Brazil in my case, but 8 others around the world. Feel free, look us up. We'd love to hear from you. Continue in that spirit of dialogue that Safwan Masri has charged us all with to figure out so that it isn't a guessing matter, but we know basically what you want and how we can be of more service to you, especially in this very, very difficult time we're all going through. So thank you so much again to our speakers. Safwan, do you want to please say?
Yeah, I just want to say that your team in Rio was very efficient, and they quickly posted in the chat box the YouTube channel address for the Global Centers and the newsletter a link also, so that you can join the newsletter link for the Global Centers. Feel free to reach out to us through the Columbia Global Centers website. You can email us. I'll give my email address out, smm1@columbia.edu. And if I don't answer you myself, I will certainly channel the question to somebody who's better able to answer it. But we'd love to hear from you. We'd love to be there for you. And really, a lot of credit to Dean Jim Valentini and to President Lee Bollinger, who have been supporting and leading and really wanting all of this to happen. So thank you. Be well. Stay safe. See you soon. Bye.
Bye now.